everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This is Carmina, a reader and a counselor who uses astrology cards and human designs to address your concerns. And today we are going to be starting a new series. Why not? We're going to be starting a series that looks at the planets in the signs. You know, when I first started studying astrology, I didn't know, of course, so many things, and I was just looking at the planets in the signs and try to remember as much as possible so that when I see that in somebody's chart, I'll be like, okay, this is like this is like this. But I realized after some time that it's more important to understand what the planet actually is and what that sign actually is, and then the way you combine them and put them together can be very creative, and it can also include knowledge that you have from beyond astrology. So that's what I recommend you to do as well, not to be limited by anybody's interpretation. If you know what the planets are and if you know what the sign is, and what I mean by knowing what the planet and what the sign is, I'm saying, you know, just get some reliable 1,000-year-old verses because, you know, if those verses were kept for such a long time intact and they are still used, it means there's something to them. So we are going to be looking at Venus today in Scorpio. Why not? Let's look at Venus in Scorpio. What could that mean? Is that good? Is that bad? Or it's neither? So first, let us again recap that the planets are conscious forces that shape things, that work things, that shape personality and shape things and manifest things. And the signs, they are not conscious, they are kind of Venus. What is the energy of Venus? Venus is a feminine energy. It's one of the two so-called feminine manifestation of the planets, along with the moon. But different from the moon, Venus is of a Rajasic nature. The moon is of a Sattvic nature. So the moon is more divine. The moon is doing for the sake of doing, for the sake of being. But Venus is a more worldly and a more desiring planet. So Rajasi motivation is passion. It's being passionate about something and doing it. Venus is also a very devotional planet. It's a planet that pertains to the arts and also entertainment. It pertains also to nurses, to caring for other people. It pertains to liquids, it pertains to vehicles, affectionate and sexy women that some of them can be prostitutes. So Venus, you know, with in some combination can show a career in that type of area. Both the moon and Venus are social planets. The moon is a queen in the archetypal planet court, so it has this also this social function of interacting with the kingdom. And Venus is the counselor, and it's the counselor, the mediator, the diplomat, and also the poet, because it can bring meaning where there is none. It's more concerned with the practical aspects of life rather than the far removed sattvic aspect. Venus is not concerned with judgment. It just wants to offer gracious and diplomatic advice and solve worldly problems and practical problems that we are confronted with. Venus also is said to rule psychics because it gives meaning where there is none. It also is related to poetry, so to beautiful things in general, to aesthetically pleasing things. It's related to sex because it rules the original seventh sign. It also rules the institution of marriage, so the commitment between two people that is validated by society. So Venus rules two signs, one an earth sign and another is an air sign. The earth sign is Taurus. It's the more sensual, practical, material aspect of Venus. And Libra sign is, of course, it's also, as we discussed, the sexual intercourse, but it's also the institution of marriage, it's the contract, it's trade, so trading with people, making partnerships, making agreements. And Venus is exalted in water sign, in Pisces, in Jupiter's sign, yes? And Venus is debilitated in a friend sign in Virgo. Venus is not really feeling well in Cancer because the moon is an enemy to Venus, and it's not really feeling well in Leo because the sun is an enemy to Venus. So isn't that interesting that the two luminaries are kind of inimical to Venus, to this more worldly aspect? And in one way, it's because the sun and the moon are the foundation, and Venus is more like our interaction with society, our fitting into the society, and we can't let that fitting into society come into the way of. And when Venus is in Cancer, relationships can be hampered by our subjective consciousness, by our ideal way of seeing things, or some very personal compulsions. And when Venus is in Leo, instead of being fair and trading, it wants to be kind of the queen of everything. It wants to have all the respect. It's not really so much interested in fairness. But let's see, Venus in Scorpio, right? Because that's the topic of the day. Venus in Scorpio is in a natural neutral sign because Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, and Venus are naturally neutral towards each other, so reciprocally neutral. But what Mars and Venus have in common is that they are both quite passionate planets. And if we see a Mars-Venus conjunction, we know that person is going to invest a lot of passion into the sign and into the house connected to these two planets. You know, Venus in Scorpio has a bad reputation coming from a Western astrology background. I was reading a lot of books when I don't know, in 2010 or something, and they were saying, oh, Venus in Scorpio, bad, possessive, blah, blah. But why is that? Why is that? Scorpio is a water sign. And how does Venus do in the water signs? Well, in Cancer, it's not doing great. It's in an enemy sign. In Scorpio, it's in a neutral sign, so it's and in Pisces, it's exalted. So it has all the high, the lows, and the middle ground with the water signs. And why is that? We already explained why. In Cancer, it's not doing so well. In Pisces, it's exalted because Venus is the planet of love, and Pisces is, of course, the sign of divine love, of universal collective love, whatever you want to call it, like surrendering to the divine. Well, Pisces is a sattvic sign, so Venus is exalted there, and Cancer is also a sattvic sign, but Venus is not so good there. In Scorpio, which is a tamasic sign, so this sign is motivated by the wish to evade, to escape suffering, to avoid suffering, then Venus is neutral. Scorpio has this kind of bad reputation because it's an unpredictable sign. It can be the sign of extremes, it can be the sign of radical changes, because it has a lot to do with inner battles, with contemplating the inner structure of the self with all the vulnerabilities. And on one hand, Venus, who is more oriented to pleasure and agreements, is not super happy there because it would rather do something else, something more practical, like in Taurus or in Capricorn, or be exalted on the altar of divine love, like in Pisces. But it's not super bad either, it can find some passion there, to overcome these inner struggles. So Scorpio is the sign of taking some time off. It's a feminine sign. It's contemplating, it's retreating and having the inner battle. It's a very passionate sign, but it's an inward passionate sign. It's not like Venus in Aries when you're outwardly passionate. This passion goes inward. So these people are like burning, like coals, like they are burning, but you don't really see the flame, but inside they are burning. These people with Venus in Scorpio, or when Venus is transiting Scorpio, there is some sort of inner burning. So as I was saying, Venus is a Rajasic planet motivated by pleasure, and Scorpio, it's a passionate sign. So Venus in Scorpio will always be very passionate. Whenever you see, Mars with Venus together, or Mars in Venus signs, or Venus in Mars signs, that's a combination for passion right there. So there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of sexual passion, but not only. There's a lot of energy, and it matters how you channel that energy. That's why it's neutral. So it's not like, oh my God, you're doomed, you have Venus in Scorpio. No, you have Venus in Scorpio, you probably like very taboo things, because Venus is also what you like, your taste, your preferences, what you are fulfilled with. So you like these more hidden things, you like, withdrawing, contemplating. You really feel more fulfilled with a lot of breaks than having a super constant and linear life if you have Venus in Scorpio. So correct me if you have Venus in Scorpio and I'm wrong. Yeah, so I would say in a nutshell, a passion for hidden things, because Venus, passion, love for hidden things, which is Scorpio. Yeah, okay, that was today's tidbit about Venus in Scorpio. Come back soon when I feel inspired to do another video about another planet in a sign, and I hope this leads for you to a better understanding of the planet energies in the signs, and maybe it makes you learn more astrology. I'm also gonna link below the ebook that I co-wrote with my colleague Levi Kozan, where we describe the planets, the houses, we describe the signs and the aspects, and we give meaning to them. We try to give a holistic meaning. So if you're interested in that ebook, just check out the link below. Okay? Okay, so I'll talk to you guys soon. See you later. Bye.